like to officially welcome you to I'm a Manager, Empowerme in the New Workplace. We have a lot to share with you today because we understand that being a manager is very difficult. It's a lot of hard work. And especially since we're in this post-COVID things, because so many leadership things have changed, even though there's similar principles. When we get here, there's just some really interesting things that are different. And so what we want to do in this webinar is to help you refresh your skills and polish up, you might say, some tried and true principles that are still there, but they need to be tweaked just a little bit. And to begin with, I want to apologize to you because I had you go to this earnthegift.com app, and you were supposed to be able to see what you were losing to engagement. And then I wanted to help you build a bridge between you and your employees. But I changed our site. We went to a new hosting service. And when I went to check this yesterday, that app was gone. So I apologize to you for that. But what it is, and when I get it back, I'll send it out to you. But what it was is that you could go and you could put in the number of employees that you thought were disengaged, the percentage of how they were disengaged, their average salary, and then it told you how much you were losing to disengagement. And I was doing this live in a program and had them go and check it while I was right there in the room with them. And one gentleman said, I'm losing $500,000 a year to disengagement. Oh, wow. And I thought that was pretty amazing here to be able to realize that you were losing that much. Now, sometimes disengagement is just because I'm distracted, or maybe I'm having a bad day, but then there are others that are actively whining and complaining and just doing enough to barely get a paycheck. So you have a wide range, and we need to talk a little more about disengagement. But what I want to go on to now is the concept of remote or hybrid, because we're going to dive into now the new workplace challenges in what was pre-COVID and what was post-COVID. And I think Chris and I agree that one of the biggest challenges is now whether people are going to continue to work remote, or do they have to come back to the office, or is it hybrid? Because we know that there's arguments on both sides for this. And we know that organizations are having a struggle with this. And so I kind of think that hybrid is coming down to what they want to do and what companies are deciding to do. So when they go back to the office, what they're trying to do is say, you can have an enclosed space here. You can seat share. You can make desk reservations. We'll try to mentor you. And by the way, we have a dry cleaning and a gym here. So that makes sense, right, Chris?
Yeah, all incentives to get you back to the office.
Yeah, so there's hassles in both sides. There's hassles getting to work. There's hassle, wearing what to wear, wondering what to wear today, and if I'm going to have a bad hair day. And then there's hassles from working at home. And Chris, why don't you explain some of those from working at home? Because I think you've done that for a while.
Yeah, the working from home is challenging. You have your animals, you have your kids, you have your husband or your wife, you have the cable guy showing up or something else showing up. And I think the challenge is trying to create a workspace for you. Unlike an office where you go and they kind of tell you where to sit and the desk to use and the phone to use. When you're at home, you really have to create your own space. And I think that takes a little bit of extra thought and energy to set yourself up for success.
Yes. And the thing I would like to point out about working at home is you don't have to go to the break room. You just have to walk like 3 feet to the refrigerator.
That's true.
Or those brownies.
Nobody's going to steal your lunch.
That's right. And the brownies are right there on the cupboard.
That's true.
Okay, so the number one principle for Empowerme is to communicate frequently with your team, whether they're in the office, whether they're working remotely. You have to keep your relationship, because that's what managers, that's their main job, is to keep the relationship going. Because research shows that people don't leave companies, they leave managers they don't like. And what you want to do is make sure you're keeping these people. Because when they walk out the door, boy, you're losing intellectual property, you're losing their knowledge, their energy. And by the way, it's not just the poor employees that walk out the door. It's usually the best ones, because they can find another job. So you want to conduct frequent one-on-ones with individuals. And it doesn't matter whether it's email, whether it's getting on Teams or Slack or texting, but you need to be in contact with them and conduct these frequent one-on-ones with individuals. So you can say, well, and this was pre-COVID, but it's more important post-COVID, especially if they're working remotely. You have to really up that up the conversations that you have with them. I think you're agreeing with that, Chris.
Yeah, very much so. And people will say, well, how do I do it? Or how often do I do it? And, make it a task. I mean, they don't know it's a task, but on your end, make it a task. Schedule, okay, I need to talk to Susan at the first of every month. And, like you said, put it on your Outlook calendar, use that calendar to say, okay, every 6 weeks or every 7 weeks. And I know it seems very formal, but at the same time, that welcome call every 4 or 5 weeks, once a week, however often it is with your team, that really speaks a lot. That speaks volumes.
Oh, it absolutely does. And if you tell them, now he was saying like once a month or something. So if you tell them once a month that I'm going to contact you and we're going to have a conversation, and I think that's formal and they expect it. They don't feel like they're getting micromanaged. But there's nothing wrong with just, shooting them a quick text and saying, how are you doing today? Or, is your cat okay? Or did your dog get better?
The human part of work, right? Yeah, the human part of it.
Yeah, the human part, you can do that. Okay, so number 2 is post-COVID is critical to provide vision so that you get results. And the reason this is more important is if they're working remotely or if they're working hybrid, you've got to be they have to know what the target is and when the deadline is. Because I love this picture. You can see all the arrows going all different ways. And there's some significance here because if even projects and things that you're trying to have target can go in different ways, but individuals have creative brains and they can go, oh, we could solve it this way. And they start going down this rabbit hole. So if you have not set the vision to get results, then you don't know where they are. And especially the deadline, because if you have a deadline for them, and by the way, I think this is the thing that's most important when they're working remotely. Are they meeting the deadlines? Are they turning in the product? Because if they are, then it doesn't matter if they stop and pause and go throw in a load of wash. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Allow them to set up themselves for success, with it, just give them the vision. I think that's so important that people don't want to just come into a company and walk around on their own and figure things out. Something drew them to this company, with the overall vision, whatever that vision is. And it's your job as a manager to make sure that you can express that vision to them and keep that vision in front of them at all times. I think that's so important. Like you go to Nike because you like footwear and apparel and you like the brand. And so when you get in there work with them, you have to continue that because the brand got them or the company, it could be anything in the company. It could be they saw a logo, they saw an advertisement, they have a friend that works there. But it's really important that once they actually get there, that continues on.
Oh, that's so well said. And not only that, but they need to be aligned. Their personal values need to align with the organizational values. And so as a manager, that's your job to keep them going in the right direction and helping them understand that we are together here. Okay, so number 3 here is that motivation. This is one of my favorite pictures. I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but I know I have. And in post-COVID, I mean, this happened pre-COVID too, but in post-COVID, they started calling it quiet quitting. And there's lots of different analogies or lots of different thoughts around quiet quitting. And I've read quite a bit about that. Some people say people quiet quit. And by the way, quiet quit means that all I'm doing is just enough so I don't get fired, or just enough so I get my paycheck and go home. And so some people say this is a good thing because people are balancing their lives more, but they're not going the second mile. So companies have to kind of look at that and say, well, can we get a little more loyalty from them? Will they stay just an hour longer when we have a critical deadline? Quiet quitting would say no. But if you want to progress in the company and you, as a manager, if you really need their help, then you want to address this motivation angle. I don't know if you have any comments on quiet quitting or not, Chris.
Yeah, I think exactly what you said, Karla. the one thought is, oh, well, if they're doing the life balance and they're getting, best of both worlds, but not to be rude, but if you paid them for 40 hours and they're really only locked in for 35, that goes back to the loss. If you lose 5 hours a week times 52 weeks of quiet quitting the life balance, you want them to look forward to coming to work. You want them to be engaged. You want them to be thinking about it. That's why you hired them. You don't hire somebody into position for the status quo. You hire somebody in the position to take it to the next level.
Excellent. Yes. So here are some really fun things about motivation. Pre-COVID, it was the carrot or the stick. And I think we understand that, right? But post-COVID, Ed is not motivated by a carrot and a stick. So what does motivate Ed in the post-COVID world? Well, in the pre-COVID world, in the 20th century, motivation was based on extrinsic things. It was based on money and getting things, even purchasing things, but getting things from the company as well. And so pre-COVID motivation was extrinsic, meaning I got a badge, I got a trophy. And how many got the gold watch after 40 years? And extrinsic was also based on fear of being fired, fear of punishment, and etc. So everything was outside. It was like the carrot or the stick, outside the individual. And now in post-COVID, it's intrinsic. And this is a huge difference for you because people want autonomy to produce their work. In other words, they don't want people checking, over their shoulder all the time, looking at them. They want to be able to set their own schedule. What task am I going to do first? What task next today? But remember, I will meet the deadline, but give me some autonomy here. They want to belong to a group, which I think is kind of fascinating because we're human beings want emotional connection to people. I was listening to a psychologist speak, and she said, people have to have an emotional connection to someone else or they feel empty inside. And I think you can understand that because I have felt alone before. And it is kind of this disconcerting thing. So as a manager, you want them to belong to your group. They want to learn new skills. They want to master new concepts, and they want to do meaningful work. They need to have interest in their projects, and they need to have a love of work. Now, I have to make just a little side time out right here. When it says love your work, the 80-20 rule, I teach that a lot in time management, the 80-20 rule. And, 80% of the things you do don't bring you the results you want. It's the 20% that really gets you up the ladder of success. Well, when you look at loving work, what I want to say to you is that you have to love about 80% of what you do. The other 20% no one could like. So we can't be happy at work all the time because work is work. And there are some things that we just have to do. So post-COVID then, as we look at this, is that money plus meaning. And so do you have a comment on that, Chris?
No, I was just going to say, well put. Yeah, money plus meaning. It used to just be money, money, money. Now it's meaning. Why are they going to this job every day? And it can take, depending on the job and their engagement, that however much money that they're making, and as great as it was in the beginning, can go away pretty quickly. And that's no longer the draw. It's just the norm. The job is the exciting part.
Right. And some of the things that are given become entitlements. It's like, oh, what's next? What do I get next if I do this work? So let's move on to the next one, the fourth one. And this is that people want empathy. They want concern for their total well-being, and they want to be able to handle some of the stress of the workplace. So what I would say to this is that you don't become the psychologist and you don't become the psychiatrist because you cannot make people happy. Okay. And what you want to do is, well, first of all, you don't want to put up with whining. You don't want to put up with, pity parties and things like that. But what it means is that you can have conversations with them because you can tell if people are having a problem, a bad day. We all have that. But then there's life happenings. It's like illnesses, family. Some people are in the sandwich generation. So you want to sit down and listen to them, understand their perspective, have a discussion, and make allowance when it's warranted for a certain period of time. So those are some of the things that come into this post-COVID and this happiness that is there. And I have an interesting thing here for you that I advertised. It was called See Me as an Individual, which is the oak tree principle, what I call it. And what I mean by this is that I want you to accept people as is when they come into your organization. When you've hired them, accept them with strengths and limitations because they are there. Everyone has them. But then when you see them as an individual, see these things, your parentage, your nationality, how you think, how you learn, how you process information, the disc and driving forces, that's all stamped on you at conception. Those are the primary characteristics of diversity. But you connect with people through the values that you share. And this is what's really fun is up here when you get into the tree, the branches and the leaves, and you start asking them questions, you get to know them as individuals. And so when you become familiar with them as individuals, you become friends. Then when something happens and you have a disagreement, you're still friends because you have this basis that you can use. So one other thing here, two more things, and then we're going to turn the time over to Chris. Empowerme also in post-COVID means that they need feedback. They want to know how they're doing. They don't want to just have a once a year performance review. Every little while, you have to encourage them and say, you're doing a great job. Psychological safety means that they can speak who they are. They can be authentic. They can surface their truth. And impulse controls means that when they surface their truth, you're not saying, well, that's a stupid idea. You're giving them a chance to be able to talk and to go through how they really feel. Do you have a comment on that, Chris?
Well, I was going to say, I was going back to the old adage of encourage, not discourage.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to your staff, your team, your employees, and they give you feedback, wow, that it's very courageous on their part because they realize who they're giving it to. But if you can take that feedback and use it and thank them for it, whether it's good or bad, then they were going to want to do it again and again and again. And honestly, those are the people that are touching the other people's products, services. Those are the ones they're in the face-to-face interactions. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Okay. It also means that you improve their skill sets. Just like in basketball, any athlete can always improve what they're doing. So you have to look at your people and say, of course, we have AI, and so a lot of technology they need to learn. But I think you also need to go into the soft skills that Chris and I talk a lot about, because do they know how to handle conflict? Have you given them a communication skills class? Do they understand personalities? Do they understand how to be resilient? And I have some handouts there for you that you can go through and you can look and see if any of these fit some of your needs. So you have to keep the learning. And then we have workplace balance, which we talked about, the quiet quitting. And I have a presentation called Harmonize Your Life. And you can look me up on YouTube and you can see how this plays. And there's also a description there. But balance just says two things, home and work, and that leaves me out. But in Harmonize Your Life, it means that I can play a middle C, I can play an E, and I can play a G. And if you know music, that makes a harmony. And so you take care of yourself, you take care of your work, and you take care of other people. So it's a great concept. And we'll talk more about that later, but go get that handout over there. You can download that. So now you have to make them successful. And Chris has a great little scenario here for us. So go ahead, Chris.
So the scenario that I kind of get asked sometimes is how do you make employees successful? So we're going to go through a quick little work study group of, you've been given the task as a manager to create a website. And with that, you are the one that has to delegate the timeline, the task, who does what, how long does it take, what's it going to look like, which is a lot of information because you have to be the one as a manager to go ahead and not only decipher what that means, but to be able to delegate it to your team. So going through here, I kind of come up with some different scenarios. So, the elements of that would be the keyword search, the categories. Let's say it's a clothing company. So the categories might be men and women's, children's, female, male, gender specific. There may be dog wear. What are the categories? What are the pictures? Who's going to be taking all the pictures and loading up on the website? What kind of products are they going to be? What are the different colors are they going to be? What are the sizes? Are you going to do pants? Are you going to do shorts? What are the links? So when somebody pulls that link up from the website, who's working on the back end of it? And then finally, the social media. We know how huge of a part that is, but it's a specialized skill. So whether they're going to use Facebook, or they're going to use TikTok, or they're going to use, LinkedIn, are they going to use Snapchat, are they going to use Instagram? So those are kind of the elements that we're working with. So as you assign
Chris, could I say something
yes,
about
go ahead.
that?
Yeah, please.
Pre-COVID, that did not exist. Post-COVID, it's one of the most important things you could do, right, Chris?
Yeah, it is. It is. Make sure that everybody has a skill set. And it seems to be e-commerce seems to host the biggest skill sets. When you're working with people, what is the goal in the timeline? I always work with clients and say, what is your end result? And let's work back from there. That way, if you have that kind of like the carrot out there, or if you have a deadline, then you know what you're working towards. And once you have that, then you can adjust the schedule to get there. What do the new workplace employees want? They want to collaborate and they want to belong. What are they bringing to the table? What pieces of the project? If you're assigned somebody to pictures, let them figure out what the pictures are. I think there's more. The more that you can just allow them to think on their own and not be in a box and just say, provide pictures or provide the best links or the sizes, whatever that is, and you bring it back to the manager, meaning you, then you can basically, they did the work for you. I think we like to dial down and get into a lot of direction, and a lot of time it's not needed. And as Karla said earlier, people want to think, they want to belong, they're creative. So let them be creative. The next part I was thinking about was, what's meaningful and what is meaningful to that part of the project, and not only what it's meaningful, but allow them to talk to each other. So I kind of believe that everybody should be a part of the same conversation, the same deadline, the same overall project. That way, when you leave the office and you're driving down the road and you're in charge of the pictures, and you may hear something on the radio, or you may see somebody do something, or they may be able to see something in a different light, and you bring that to your coworkers and your team and say, hey, look, I saw this, or I heard this, I was online, I saw this, can we do this? You may have just saved them hours and hours of time of trying to figure that out, and vice versa. They may be driving down the road and say, oh, I saw a picture of this. Can we relate that into our website? So no more of the tunnels and funnels and everybody staying into it. You're all connected to the same goal. You're connected to the same deadline. And I think that's really what's important. Whether you work remotely, hybrid, or in the office, you're still all a team, and you're literally a call away.
Yeah, Chris,
ahead,
I want to tell you that is an excellent point, because creativity comes from so many places, and you are so right that you can read something or see something and say, whoa, that would help us. And you don't copy it, but it gives you an idea to change it and make it yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the guidance and motivation. So I think this is so important, that allow people to set their own schedules, right? So you've given everybody the task, you've given everybody permission to speak to each other on their own. They don't always have to go through the manager, but let them set up their own expectations. If it takes them 3 hours, it takes them 4 hours, if they need to do it from home, if they need a quiet space, if they like to have music in the background, everybody works differently, totally regarding on what they need to get done. Some people need to go out and do it first thing in the morning. And, Karla has a great presentation on time management, and how, you do the tough tasks at a certain time, you do the easier tasks at a different time. But as long as your goal as a manager really is just set the expectations and timelines and figure out how they do it. And I want to give you like a quick scenario. There's a saying in a story that a plumber, was called to fix a pipe in a church, and the church was flooding, and he gave the bill and nobody could figure it out. And they spent all day calling all these people. And finally a guy showed up and he gave him the bill, and the bill was for $100 for 5 minutes of work. And it was basically $1 for the part and $99 for the labor. And when they asked the guy, oh my gosh, this is so much. He's like, you don't pay me for what I do, you pay me for what I know. So it took me 30 years to be able to do it in an hour. That's like your employees, treat them as more of a task. And once they get that task done, it's not important how they got it done. What's important is that they did do it, and they did it their way, and they're going to feel empowered to do that for the next task that they get. Any
Yeah,
questions on that,
absolutely. They
Karla?
feel
Yeah.
so good about themselves when they contribute. It's pulling them in.
And then I'll turn it back over to Karla. Thank you, guys.
We have many empowerment programs for you. We can do live training for you. We can do virtual training. I've done a lot of webinars during COVID, and I know that Chris probably has too. Chris is an excellent coach. You can see his business knowledge is amazing. So some of the popular programs that we have are Seeing Others with 2020 Vision. And this is a disc and driving forces. And I have some wonderful activities that people rage about. We have easy and effortless difficult conversations that help people understand how to handle conflict. I have one called Charismatic Leadership. How do you be more charismatic? And when I was doing a personality class, I had a young lady in the class look at me when everyone else had left. And she said, Karla, how do you get charisma? It's like, for once I was speechless. So in this, we got to tell you some good tips and techniques for being more engaging and charismatic. And then, of course, my book is Discretionary Effort Leadership. We can also talk to you about change, creativity, and innovation. So if you have a need on your team, go ahead and call one of us, and we'll see what we can do. And this is my book, the discretionary, how to earn the gift of discretionary effort. And I had to put this up here because people can't say discretionary. And I thought, what a name for a book. But this is how you say it. And this is the model that we can bring to you. And it's pretty holistic and looking at how you lead. So you can see that it has several steps in there, like the well-being, the social acceptance that I talked about, and the rational alignment that people have to have with, all the arrows going all different ways. And if you do those things, then you're going to get emotional commitment from them and authentic contribution.
And I want to comment real quickly on that, Karla. I think one of the things that's so great about this book and your leadership model is it shows what, not only the importance, but it's the way kind of the workforce has changed, right? I mean, we really don't have anything in there about money. We don't have anything in there about time off. Those are secondary. And I think what's really cool about the way that you aligned this was it's all about what people truly want, authentically want. Yes, money's important. Yes, time's off important. But what am I getting holistically, like you said? And the discretionary part is, you want people to work because they want to work, right? Yeah. How great is that they want to be there. They want to be a part of it. Yes, it's important to get paid, but just like you said, they'll go the extra mile. They'll put in the time. They need the client phone call. They need to come in on Saturday, for a couple hours or volunteer or whatever it is. But yeah, I just had to comment that I think it's really cool how you've broken these areas down.
Oh, well, thank you. And one of the reasons that I wanted the word discretionary, because I taught time management for so long. And when you have discretionary time, that is such a wonderful gift because you get to decide what you're going to do with it. And so you want people in your organization, when they have time, to give you discretionary effort, which takes care of quiet quitting. Because they're involved intrinsically. So we're coming webinars for us. On July 12th, I'm going to do one on just the personalities and the driving forces and tell you why you want not only just the disc, but you want the driving forces as well. And then on the 26th of July, let me get the right month, Chris and I are going to come back, and it's going to be Empowerme to boost team productivity. So give them a pitch for that, Chris.
I think that team productivity is such a great topic because nowadays more than ever, for example, I was just in California and the client that I work with, their entire company was remote. The sales team, the fulfillment team, they had a warehouse, and the warehouse people were the only people that actually came to a building every day to work. And you talk about boosting productivity. It was just the way that they all came together and enjoyed each other and talked about you, that, oh my gosh, you're Karla and you're Sam and I work with you. And the product, simple things like they all got team t-shirts, they all got a team barbecue, they got the tour of the facility, just small little things like that that you think costs a lot of money, oh my gosh, this is going to go tenfold. Imagine 3 months from now, somebody calls you up and says, hey, you remember me? I talked to you. Oh, yeah. You're going to get stuff done 10 times easier. I mean, just like you said, based on those relationships and the team productivity.
Absolutely. And you're generating so many things in my mind. It's like they tell you that anytime you give them a program or you give them attention or you get increased productivity. So just giving them attention is what's
attention. Huge.
Yeah. Huge. So if any of you have ideas that you'd like to deep dive in, you can put those in the chat. I'm going to look at the chat here. And if you want to learn more about any of these, of course, we're going to do the one on productivity at the end of July, but anything else, or you can chat in your own idea of what you would like us to cover, and we will be glad to do that for you.
Or if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions right now from what we discussed, or you'd like to discuss further, please put it in the chat. Let's go ahead and capture it.
Not only that, but here are our cell phones. We love you so much that we're giving you our cell phones. Right, Chris?
Not just an email address. Now you have a cell phone, a direct dial. And yes, it is our cell phones, and we do answer the phone. It's not a call.
That's
center.
right. We do. And you can download all the files over there. And we promised you a complimentary disc in Driving Forces, and we promised you some consultation. So download those files and then contact us, and we will be glad to set that up for you. So if there are questions, I guess you could raise your hand and we could let you speak. We'll give just another minute here. Chris.
We did so good. They don't have any questions.
Yeah, right. How do we access the downloads shown, including the presentation? The presentation will be sent out automatically from the system, but I'll also send you a link so that you can get it. And you should be over on the files here. Oh, no, they're there. You just have to go to where it says files, and they're there for you to download. I believe they're there. Can you kind of check that, Chris?
Yeah, I was looking at the files. They have sharing. Yep, you have sharing options.
So they should be there.
Yep, I can see that. It says sharing.
Are they downloading now for you?
They are not. They just say sharing.
Oh, it doesn't mean that they're... Oh, let me check here, see if I did it wrong. Well, if I click on it, it says stop sharing.
Yeah, let us know, guys, if you are not. I can see the files and can download them. Okay, so thank you, Shannon.
If you don't get them, email us.
Okay, thank you, Allison.
Okay, good. Allison says
Poor Keith. Okay, poor Keith is having a hard time.
Oh, okay.
Keith, maybe we could, if you want to get a hold of Karla, she can maybe send those to you directly.
I will be glad to do that. I'm going to put my email in here now, which is just my name. And
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, there. You want to put your can you see the chat, and can you put your email in there too?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you didn't get,
sure that you go ahead.
Right, I was gonna say, if you didn't get anything, email me and I'll give them, send them in an email to you. But you will receive a link to watch this again.
And Allison, I just wanted to say, hey, we appreciate that you can relate to all that we shared. We want to make sure that our presentations are present and current, and that you guys can walk away with some either the same nuggets, either a reconfirmation of what you're going through, or some new information that we might be able to help you with.
So any other comments or questions? Chris, I do have one thing.
Sure.
The Apple icon. What was his name?
Oh,
the one that passed away that made Apple so great.
Jobs, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Thank you. What he said that I think is important to us is we don't hire people and tell them what to do. He says we hire people that can tell us what to do. And so everything we've been sharing with you, the way that you engage people, the way that you make them part of your team, the way that you get their ideas flowing. And like Chris was saying, you know, they see something and they say, oh, that would help us here. That's the goal, is to engage them. And that's really different than pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That is significant
so.
for post-COVID. So good luck with everything. Tell us, email us. You have our email things there. Tell us how these things work for you. And I also love to have you tell us what you thought was the most aha moment.
And if you have any other ideas, you know, I mean, you guys are out there in the workforce as well. If there's something that comes up that you need us to research and put on a presentation for you, be happy to do it.
We would love to do that for you. So I guess we can say just have a really great rest of your day, right?
I think so. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Thank you all for coming.